What exactly did Jimin say that made Jungkook give such an unexpected and emotional reply? Is this a sign of something deeper between them? Read on to find out the moment that made the entire army cry and flutter at the same time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss unforgettable moments from BTS. The question suddenly hangs in the air when Jimin, in a special, widely unpublished interview, mentions one thing he has long kept to himself. The admission was simple, but the vibe hit hard across the fandom. And what shakes even more? Jungkook's reply surprised not only Jimin, but the whole world that, of course, it all started with a seemingly insignificant moment, a short clip, an unusual smile, and a sentence that was barely audible to the microphone. But that's where it all began. The interview took place in a relaxed atmosphere, a softly lit room, with only Jimin and the interviewer who had long been known to be close to the members. When asked, "What is the little thing that has made you the happiest in the group so far?" Jimin smiled, but his smile was not what it used to be. He seemed to swallow before answering. There was one moment. Maybe this will sound strange, but when I saw Jungkook laughing because of something I said and he didn't know I saw it. I don't know why, but it got me so happy. The interview went on as usual, until the clip was cut and shared by staff who were unaware of the profound meaning of the confession. Within minutes, the video was viral. Armies around the world watched, replayed, cried, and wondered what was Jungkook's reaction. Jungkook, who was not scheduled to appear in any media at the time, suddenly appeared on a Weverse live broadcast a few days later. Without much of a word, just sitting quietly with his tousled hair and oversized hoodie. He hesitated, but then smiled. "And what happened next? Make everyone quiet." "I watched the video," he said quietly. "I know I shouldn't have said anything, but, Hyung, you should know? I often see you from afar." He laughed softly, but his eyes were red. "You always make me comfortable. And if I laugh because of you, it's no small thing, Hyung. It's a gift." It wasn't just Jimin who cried. Millions of soldiers around the world felt like they were present in the moment. No poetic words are more appropriate than those that come out of Jungkook's own mouth. But this story does not stop there. Because Jungkook's reply didn't just stop at that live broadcast. She posted an old photo, never seen before, with a one-word caption, "You're not alone." Army immediately excited. The photo shows Jimin asleep on the couch, and someone, who is clearly Jungkook from the shape of his hand, covering Jimin with a blanket. There is no context. No additional details. But the meaning? Countless that it didn't take long before fans dug up all the moments of their years together. Compilations of videos, fan cams, and even sound recordings from backstage that might once have been considered trivial are now being reanalyzed. And the common thread is one. There is a much deeper, more sincere, and more honest relationship than they have so far shown. Some fans wrote down their personal reflections on social media. "I watched the video when I was going through a difficult time in my life. But look at the way they take care of each other. I feel given hope," wrote one Brazilian army. On TikTok, the hashtag Jungkook Real trend is back, but this time it's not just about imagination. It's about something that really feels real. And HYB? No official statement. But there was no attempt to delete the clip or stop the conversation. It's as if the company knows few things are bigger than a marketing strategy. It's no longer about brand image, but about two human beings appreciating each other in front of a world too busy guessing, judging, and comparing. Even more astonishing, a few days later, when BTS performed at their debut anniversary special, Jimin and Jungkook stood side by side on stage. As Jimin spoke to the fans and sobbed, Jungkook took over the mic and said, "You once said my little smile makes you happy. Now I hope you know, you are also the cause of many of my smiles." The camera caught Jimin, who could not say anything, just bit his lips and lowered his head. But as he turned to Jungkook, there was something in his eyes. Not tears, not shame, but too great sincerity to hide. That night, the trending world was filled with words like Jungkook, "You're not alone," Hyung, and the Golden Magne, and a smile is a gift. Even the international media began to cover, although fans knew, whatever is written in the article, it will never be able to capture the full meaning of those moments. Sometime later, Jungkook posted a voice note that made the entire fandom stop breathing. In a soft and low tone of voice, he said, "I never said this before, but you were always the reason I survived the hard times. Maybe the world is too noisy, and we never have time to say things like this. But I hope one day you do. You're not just a member to me. You're home." The voice note, only 26 seconds long, is a testament to how deep their relationship is. Not a relationship built on fan service or industry expectations, but something that grows behind the scenes, from stressful days, late-night rehearsals, emotionally draining concerts, and a togetherness that nothing can buy. And now, the world wonders, will there be more confessions like this? Is BTS breaking new ground in the way they communicate to fans and each other? Are we spectators from afar who can only interpret through the screen finally allowed to see a little bit of the truth of a friendship that has endured so many years? The army was divided between those who could not stop crying, smiling, or reflecting. But one thing is certain, the world will not forget how one small confession from Jimin, being able to shake the collective emotions of millions of people, and how the reply from Jungkook became one of the most honest moments in BTS history. If you feel that this moment touched your heart, feel free to share your story in the comments. Have you ever felt as connected as Jimin and Jungkook? Click like if you believe that small words can change everything. And subscribe so you don't miss the next story, because this may just be the beginning. But the silence that was felt after that touching moment did not last long. In a matter of hours, doubts and controversies began to creep to the surface. Behind the flood of support and the army's heart-rending cries washed away by Jimin and Jungkook's closeness, there are discordant voices questioning, is all this sincere or just a scenario? An account of a former longtime staffer who used to work on HYB's creative team started making a stir with one ambiguous post. They've been rehearsing this from last year. You think the timing is a coincidence? It didn't take long before the screenshot went viral on international forums, prompting sharp questions. Was Jimin's emotional confession and Jungkook's reply orchestrated? Is this a form of emotional manipulation of fandom? That question is painful for most fans. But it was even more hurtful when the account went ahead with a claim that there had been an internal document discussing a strategy of emotionalizing member interactions in order to maintain fanbase loyalty ahead of their respective solo promotions. Whether true or not, the fire was already lit. The reaction of the army was divided. Some defended desperately, others began to ask bitterly, if it's true that this is all just part of the game, what do our tears mean all this time? But what made the situation even more smoldering was the appearance of an old clip from 2021, when Jungkook was accidentally captured during a rehearsal saying, "We can't get too close on camera," then they start theorizing again. Those words, if pulled into context today, sound like a tacit admission that there is something they have to hide, or at least limit. But along with the viral clip, another leaked document, this time from a Korean media industry insider, mentions that it wasn't Jimin or Jungkook who initiated the confession initiative, but rather a senior staffer from BTS branding team who reworked the narrative to trigger a collective emotional explosion. The document states that personal expressions between members packaged as emotional surprises proved most effective in increasing streaming loyalty and merchandise purchases during phases of group intensity decline. In other words, the moment is probably not just about feelings. It was about business. But all became much more complicated when Jungkook's own official account deleted the voice note that had previously been the most touching symbol in his response to Jimin. No statement, no explanation. It just disappeared. In the digital world, when something is deleted for no reason, then only one thing happens. Speculation goes crazy. He was ordered? Did anyone press him? Or does he himself regret having gone that far? Suddenly, the intimacy previously welcomed with Haru turns into something darker. Fans began to realize that they are not just an audience of two people's story, but also part of the battleground between honesty and image, between human connection and market strategy. And when the reporters began to approach Jimin to ask about the voice note that has now disappeared, the answer made the atmosphere even more confusing. Jimin just smiled and said, "Some things don't have to be stored forever." The sentence can be interpreted as sincerity, but it can also be a regret. Or as a form of subtle allusion to what may be happening behind the scenes. Nobody knows. Then came Jungkook's birthday. Usually, Jimin is the first to congratulate, often even with their affectionate uploads and typical jokes. But this year, there isn't one. Silence. The only remark came from BTS's official account, which sounded very stiff. It really broke the army. Those who once believed in the immortality of the Jungkook bond began to question whether they had just witnessed the end of something. Is intimacy real, or is it too real to finally be banned? It all got heated when a photo circulated of Jimin with two HYB executives at a luxury restaurant in Cheongdam. Rumors spread quickly. Is Jimin being pressured to temper his emotional openness because it could disrupt the image of certain global brands? Is there a larger force that is now beginning to interfere in the personal dynamics of the members? Not long ago, a well-known lawyer who has worked on cases to protect celebrities from industrial exploitation mentioned in an interview that there are great young musicians who are considering canceling contracts because of the pressure on their personal relationships. And even if names are not mentioned, the public knows where the speculation is headed. And then, in the midst of the storm, Taehyung, who has been silent all this time, posted a short story on Instagram, a video of the night sky with one sentence: "People can lose their way if they wear masks too often." It was a bomb that exploded in silence, because in the fandom community, masks don't just mean imagery. It was a code for everything that had to be hidden in the public interest. And when one of them hints that someone lost their way, who is meant? Jungkook? Jimin? Or HYB yourself? That night, the trending topic on Twitter wasn't just hashtag protect Jimin or hashtag free Jungkook, but also hashtag let them be human. A universal cry from millions of feeling hearts. Perhaps, amid all the glitter of the stage, we have forgotten that they are not mere symbols, but human beings who want to feel, choose and love freely. So how does this story end? Nothing yet. Because to this day, Jungkook hasn't spoken yet. Jimin didn't explain. HYB has not released a statement. But the whispers, tears, and digital traces that remain bear witness that the world once stopped for a moment, because one small confession makes a person happy and a reply too honest for the world to accept. And you, as a viewer and part of this story, have one choice. Will you believe in the narrative that the industry has put together, or in the feelings that you yourself see in their eyes? But what if even taste can be questioned? What if even the purest visible emotions could be curated? This is the most painful question that began to haunt the minds of many ARMY, especially after one confession came from a former BTS documentary editorial staff who had long since quit the project. In an anonymous interview on the Underground podcast, this person said in a changed voice, "You have no idea how often we have to delete their moments because they are too emotionally intense." The statement was like a bomb went off. Too emotionally intense, what does that mean? Is there such a deep closeness between Jimin and Jungkook, even more than the camera can tolerate? Are we all just looking at a cleaned up, filtered, polished version of the company policy? Then, a long thread appeared on a Korean community forum claiming that there was once a moment where Jimin and Jungkook almost took it all apart in a Weverse live broadcast last year, but their connection suddenly broke, and the video was re-deleted. Even for those watching live, the moment felt awkward. The connection wasn't bad before, and there was no obvious technical reason why the live stream ended so quickly. "You think it's a glitch?" wrote a forum user. It was intentional. And as speculation began to turn to fury, a photo from behind the scenes of BTS's comeback in the previous year again surfaced, this time with a different highlight. In the photo, Jungkook stands behind Jimin, who is talking to the staff, with a very unusual expression: angry, tense, his hands clenched. The eyes of Jimin. The photo used to be taken for granted. But now, in the midst of a storm of suspicion, its meaning has completely changed. Some fans began to voice extreme opinions. HYB is frightened by the fact that if they are honest, they will lose control. If their relationship is limited to friendship, why are they so restricted? Do BTS themselves still have control over their narrative? And perhaps most surprising is the emergence of another piece of voice notes leaked to the public through an international fanbase account known to have sources close to industry insiders. In the voice note, a voice similar to Jungkook's was heard, saying, "I wanted to say everything, but they said it could ruin the image of the group. So I shut up." The audio snippet sparked massive outrage. The international community started trending with the hashtags #LetJungkook and #FreeBTS. In South Korea, independent radio programs began to address a previously taboo theme. To what extent do agencies control members' personal narratives? And in the meantime, BTS's official account remains silent.